Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you live at CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference. And here with me is David Webb, host of the David Webb Show on SiriusXM Patriot Channel 125, Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to midnight. And David Webb Show, WEBB show.com, the website. David, welcome to the program.
Hey, good to be here, Tom.
Great to have you with us. So why, one of the arguments that has come up over and over again over the years, back all the way back to Abe Lincoln, in fact, I think, is should the government be the employer of last resort? And in a way, the stimulus programs, the Obama stimulus programs, were making the government the employer of last resort. The argument's made by people like Paul Krugman that it is a much more efficient way to stimulate the economy to put somebody to work than it is to give somebody welfare benefits or pretty much anything else. That's the most effective stimulus there is. Why shouldn't the government, if capitalism fails in filling in the chinks, filling in the holes in the business cycle, why shouldn't government step in?
Well, you've got to go to what Krugman just said. And right. You talked about putting people to work. The question is, where does the money come from to pay those people? The growth of wealth, forget parties for a moment. Wealth capital is grown in economics when you actually create it. If you take money, such as the stimulus money, if you take money from, as government takes money.
Wait a second. Wealth is grown when people create things, when people make things.
Right, whether they create, manufacture, or invest in whatever they've grown the money. So Krugman's principle is that you take money, taxpayer dollars,
right,
and you put people to work paying them with taxpayer dollars.
Right.
That doesn't create wealth because you're actually taking wealth from another sector. It comes from taxation, and there's a difference between taxation to support a government, which is fair. You want to support a government. You want a valid government working. That's one of the reasons we should pay taxes.
Right.
But you don't want a simple case of taking money to support. And by the way, the stimulus package was a great idea except for one thing. When you read the actual structure of the stimulus package, when it came to the bailouts, it was good to pay down a lot of the pension reforms. They finally sold, 500 million shares of GM a week ago. They've recovered 30 out of 50 billion plus. But we haven't recovered all of that money. The money was used to move other things down the line.
Let's not debate the bailouts and say we can get into the micro of that for a long time. Let's just follow a dollar.
All right.
If the government hires somebody and gives them $1,
right,
then they're going to go out and do what with that? They're not the Romney class. They're not going to put it in a Swiss bank account. They're going to go to a local store and they're going to buy something. That local store owner now needs to have more of whatever that person bought.
Yeah, that's great. Where's the dollar come from?
Well, it came from taxpayers.
Okay.
I'm with you.
All right.
Taxpayers all got together and said, our economy, things are not all that great right now. We need to figure out, let's do something. So that dollar goes to the store owner. Say the guy buys bread. Store owner then goes to the baker and says, I need some more bread. So the baker has to buy more wheat.
What you're talking about is the broken window fallacy, in short.
No. What I'm talking about is,
where does the dollar come from? The dollar comes from the taxpayer. Where does the taxpayer get it? Let's find out where the
productive labor.
Okay. So
and in fact, what you have done is one of those taxpayers is now that guy who got the dollar from the government, who before was taking money from the government in ways that were not productive because they were not producing goods or services. It was simply a welfare payment. But now that person is producing goods or services, whether it's building a school or a bridge or a hospital, it's going to last for the next 50 years and be the infrastructure in which business can grow. Now that they're doing that, and they're spending money in their local economy, and now that store owner buys a loaf of bread, the bread manufacturer needs to buy new plastic packages. They go to a company that makes plastic.
Right, and I understand all that. Yeah. So is this along the lines of Nancy Pelosi saying that each dollar that's given out to someone creates $1.78 in economic activity? I mean, I'm just trying to get a feel for where you're
it's
going.
A variation on that. I mean, it's a super hyper simplification, but the reality is that depending on your trade policies, because the problem that we have right now is as soon as that dollar hits a product made in China and goes to China, it's gone. And so, arguably 30 years ago, a dollar circulated in our economy became $4, whether it came from the government or whether it came from the Koch brothers. Now, a dollar circulating in our economy may become $1.60, $1.70 before it ultimately ends up going to China or someplace else. But that's still not a reason to say we're going to fill in the holes in the business cycle with the government as the employer of last resort.
Well,
Why not do that? If there's stuff that needs to be
done.
done.
The fact is the private market, and nowhere in the world can you find an economy where government is the employer of first resort in any matter.
I'm not saying first resort. I'm saying last resort.
Okay, they should be the employer of last resort, but that should only be in needed areas. The government cannot become the employer. The principle of having government as an employer that creates wealth is a falsehood.
Well, then when Eisenhower built the interstate highway system, when Lincoln built the railroads, that did not create wealth?
No, it didn't. It created wealthy people who worked on it. But
no, it created the infrastructure out of which people could.
And it was based on need. Which highway do we need to build now? Which highway system do we need to build?
We need to do what South Korea did. We need to build a broadband highway system. Okay. We need to be laying fiber optics all across the state.
I'm talking about roads and bridges. Do we need to build roads and bridges right now?
Well, we need about $1 trillion worth of repairs so that we don't have people dying.
See, now you got that right. And here's where we're different. Elizabeth Warren's a perfect example of that. She called for us to spend as much of our GDP on highways and bridges and roads in her campaign. Same as China. The difference between China and us, you hit it right. We're in a repair phase. China is in a development phase, but they're building roads for stuff they don't even have. But they're still in a different track.
And they're growing, and we're not.
Repair is different.
Well, for me, repair also means changing Amtrak into high-speed rail. I mean, China's just laid down 5,000 miles.
Would you be for privatizing Amtrak then?
We could have that discussion, but somebody's got to build the tracks.
Amtrak is government money, taxpayer dollars.
Sort of. Amtrak is a private corporation right now.
Okay, how much does it lose every year?
I don't know.
Billions.
I really don't know. I thought Amtrak was operating at a break-even for a long time.
Amtrak loses billions. I'll use the other example. The post office took $12 billion out of the Treasury.
The post office would actually be
couldn't pay it back.
The post office would be profitable if it wasn't for the poison pill that Republicans put into it in 2006.
The post office took $12 billion out of the Treasury. Last year, it missed a $5.6 trillion payment and an over $6 trillion payment. Billion. Billions, trillions.
Yeah, we'll have to argue.
They couldn't make it.
We'll have to argue the post office another day. David, I'll leave you with the last word. David Webb, hang on. Check out David on Sirius XM, Patriot Channel 125, 9 p.m. to midnight. His website, davidwebbshow.com. We'll be back.